Getting more comfortable and knowledgeable as a DM can be difficult. The internet is full of advice from completely different styles of game mastery, and building up certain skills can feel like a complex skill tree, and it can be hard to know where to start. So if you are a new DM or about to be a new DM, then this video is for you. It is fundamentally the video I wish I had before I started DMing. It's going to cover a wide array of tips from the world's most famous dungeon masters and just good solid advice from around the web. This video is a lot longer than most of my previous ones, so I'll make sure to get some chapters below for people to jump around. These tips are also in no particular order, so please don't dissect the structure of this video too much. Certainly don't comment about it, my ego's fragile enough already. By the end of this video, you'll hopefully have picked up some really good advice, know how to be more comfortable in the DM seat, and know where to look next if you want to continue this journey. So my first tip here is from Mercer, and honestly, this one is incredibly important to keep not just your players, but yourself on track. Have a good plot hook from the start. And by good plot hook, he means something simple to understand, that the players will want to follow. One of the biggest complaints I hear from players with new DMs is not that the DM didn't do any voices, or didn't know the rules, or even that the world was boring. It's that the players often felt like they don't know what they're doing, like they're just fumbling around looking for a story or something to grab hold of. And often, and I know I'm guilty of this, DMs can think they have a strong, obvious plot hook and that they're dropping plenty of hints, but in reality, it's only obvious to them because they know what's going on. Players, especially new players, often need things spelled out for them. So hit them early in the game with an event that makes the direction of the game obvious. And just a small addition from me here, don't go too far the other way. If this is your first time DMing, I'd suggest just having one plot hook, one story you want to tell to start with, and make it a short, simple one. Have more Monster of the Week episodic sessions to start with, rather than going all Game of Thrones with a multi-year campaign plan. I made this mistake wanting to tell a huge story and gave my players so many plot hooks for them to just follow, and it ended up with my players having analysis paralysis, as well as them just not being able to keep track of all the moving parts. I also struggled to keep track of the moving parts myself, and the whole thing just got a little too complicated fast. So start with one single plot hook. Make it obvious this thing happens, and it points to the players needing to go to this place and do this thing. It allows you to get used to DMing and keep track of everything, and it allows the players to get used to the game if they're new, or to at least get used to you as a DM before you start throwing more complex sessions at them. Also, this video is sponsored by Wicked Warlock, handmade candles for a more immersive TTRPG experience. Each candle is designed to smell like places you will actually go to in your games, like Dwarven Mine, Tavern, Elven City, and more. And the scents are amazing. They fill the room without being overwhelming. Get up to 21% off their best-selling bundles with the link in the description below. Matt also has a great tip for new DMs starting new campaigns, and that's to have your player characters know each other already. Have them already have bonds with each other and reasons they want to stick together and go on an adventure. Sure, having a group of adventurers meet and seeing how it all plays out and watching them get to know each other is fun, but it's also just very time consuming and can be awkward if you don't have a table full of role players. That being said, while the characters may all know each other already, don't feel pressure to be original about how they meet, or anything for that matter. Long-time DMs often want to find ways to make their games different and stand out, so you can often hear advice like don't start in a tavern, it's overdone, or don't have generic NPCs or bad guys, and all that stuff. But if it's your first time DMing, I would suggest leaning into those things. Start in a tavern, make your dwarfs rowdy and your elves stuck up. Lean into those D&D stereotypes, because it will allow both you and your players to visualize what's going on really easily. It will make improvising faster, and it will allow you to concentrate on other things. Save originality for the future games. The sooner you can set the scene, get your player characters on the same page, and get everyone following a plot hook, the better. And my final Matt Mercer tip, keep the story flowing. Now if you have a table full of players who love role-playing, then by all means, let them do their thing. But otherwise, if there is a lull, or if the players seem confused, step in and keep things moving. Bring an event or scene forward, or have an NPC with important information just show up early in a different place than you had planned. D&D can be a slow game, and if you're not pushing the story forward, things can go real slow. And that's fine in general. A lot of players like a slow-paced game, but if you're a new DM, I'm presuming this is a new campaign or even a one-shot, get through as much as possible early on so that you can slow it down later. And those Matt Mercer tips, well, I do think they are great for new DMs in general. They were all specifically for one-shots. Like when he spoke about it, it was for one-shots. But I also think that leads into my next tip, which is if you are a first-time DM, maybe try with a one-shot first, or at least a short adventure that will be finished in a few sessions. This will do a few things. The first is that it will mean you as a DM only have to concentrate on 1 or 2 sessions. You don't have to worry about world building outside the planned parameters. You only have to develop a few items and NPCs. You can keep the plot simple, and most importantly, you get to speedrun DMing. You will do exploration, social, and combat encounters, and really get a taste of everything DMing has to offer. It also is a non-committal way of trying it out. So if you hate DMing, which there's a chance of, you can just stop once the story's over. And if you love it, which I think you will, then it means you can finish that arc and open up the world to the players and start a new, bigger story with the same characters, if you want. Brennan Mulligan has some excellent advice for first-time DMs, and that is, and I quote, "Don't be afraid to stumble through it." Truly, it doesn't matter if you're getting all the rules right, like at first, just grab the books, watch an actual play, get a loose vibe for how it's supposed to go, and you'll have an awesome time. And this is advice that got me started DMing. It's so easy to just want to DM, but then keep putting it off because you don't think that you're ready. But you'll never feel ready. That's the truth of the matter. And you kind of just have to jump in and do it. And in fact, this advice is echoed by Brennan often. Just do it. Get started. The only way you're going to get better is by practice, and the best way to practice is to do the thing. The first DM session you ever have will be the worst DM you will ever be. And every time you DM after that point, you'll get more confident, you'll get more comfortable, like in the seat, and you'll learn the rules more and more. So to quote Nike or Shia LaBeouf, just do it. Brennan also recommends using the tools at your disposal. There has never been a more informed time to be a DM. So many actual plays where you can see games in action. So many educational tip videos. And I don't mean this one. There's some actually good ones out there that aren't over like 30 minutes long or however long this is gonna be. Sorry. So really, while you do just do it, you can be soaking up so much information and learning your own style just by absorbing everything D&D the internet has to offer. Another observation I've seen from watching multiple interviews with Brennan Mulligan is that he snacks a lot when he DMs. And I think this is incredibly important. Not just snacking, but making sure you as the DM are comfortable. A lot of DMs, especially first-time DMs, feel the need to look like they are professionals, like they know what they're doing at all times, like they're infallible. But this honestly can just lead to inevitable mistakes being much worse, because the mistakes will happen, and you the DM just not having a good time. I'm presuming your players know you are a new DM, so you have nothing to prove to them, and you know you don't know everything, so lean into it, be comfortable, have things around you that will allow you to relax and have fun. For Brennan Mulligan, that's having snacks. For others, it may be a beer or two, though don't have too many unless that's the kind of table you want. And while we're on that note, it takes us into the next tip. Don't be afraid to be a bad DM. Not knowing the rules, making mistakes, contradicting yourself, these are all going to happen when you first start playing. So lean into it. Use mistakes as learning opportunities. Retcon things that just happened and make jokes about it. Laugh it off. Not letting stuff get to you means the players will follow suit. You'll show the players that they can make mistakes, they can mess up, and it's okay. This mentality of a fallible, mere mortal DM will lead to a more relaxed table, and a table that's more likely to have fun and laugh easily. B-Dave Walters has some great tips for beginner DMs. The biggest one being to remember this is collaborative storytelling, and you really should try not to shoot players down when they ask to do something. As a DM, you should be yes-anding when a player asks to do something. A player asks if they can do this thing, you as a DM say, yes, you do the thing, and then this happens. This keeps up a great flow, great pacing. It encourages players to try stuff, and it always makes sure scenes are progressing. However, B. Dave Walters does also say that sometimes a player may ask to do something that simply is not possible. like mechanically or within the rules of the game as you the DM see them. Now, you can massage or even break the rules of the game to keep your players having fun, of course. But if you do have a player asking to do something that you deem impossible, and you can't say yes and, because the game will fall apart if you do, don't just say no. Say no but. This keeps the game flowing and allows you to offer other options and outcomes to the player so they do not feel like they've been completely denied. Rolling off this, B. Dave Walters also suggests asking your players what it is they are trying to accomplish. I think this is one of the best things you can do as a DM, and I've talked about it on the channel a lot. If a player asks, is there a chandelier in the room? I now just ask them, what are you wanting to do? And they'll say, oh, I want to shoot a chandelier onto someone's head. And now both me and the players are on the same page, instantly. Sometimes players have a vague plan of what they want to do, but they don't have all the information of their surroundings. So they try and piece together the plan by questioning the DM, and this can lead to drawn out conversations that could end with there being a chandelier, but no one stood under it. So it can all feel like a waste of time. If you just ask the players what they're trying to accomplish, as soon as they start concocting a plan, the DM and the player can get on the same page and just make the thing happen. And that can be by yes-anding. The player may ask, is there a chandelier around that I can shoot on someone's head? So the DM can just say yes, and it happens. Or you can no but. There's no chandelier, but there is a glass skylight that could shatter on someone's head. So as soon as a player asks to do something, find out what their end goal is, and then help make it, or something similar, happen. Deborah and Woll has a great tip for new DMs, and that's to work with your players. Ask your players before the game starts to help you out by role-playing and interacting with each other. There's usually 1 or 2 players around a table who love to roleplay, so encourage it. At a new table where both the DM and the players are new, there can be this atmosphere of the players looking to the DM for the next bit of the story. They completed that part of the game. What's next, DM? And this can lead to a lot of pressure on the DM to keep the game moving and constantly keeping the players all engaged, which is not always fun. So by asking your players to interact with each other more, rather than constantly looking to you, the DM, for what's next, you'll find it will give you more breathing room to improvise and set up scenarios. It will get the players having fun with each other and immersing themselves in the world more, and it opens up the opportunity for the players to create the next part of the story together. Rather than looking to the DM for the next thing, they instead look to each other. They're still going to look to the DM a lot, of course, and the DM will still need to keep things moving and controlled, but will take a little bit of slack off them. And trust me, that goes a long way. Deborah also has another great time-saving tip in general, and that is to be happy if your players don't interact with something you had planned. For example, there is a puzzle that they choose not to complete or fail to complete. Then be okay with that, because you can just reskin that puzzle and use it later down the line. If your player didn't talk to a particular NPC or didn't go into this unique shop you really wanted them to go into, don't feel bad. Just drop that NPC or shop in somewhere else with a different look and name. It actually saves you a lot of prep work down the line. On top of that, just taking something you've used or seen in the past and reskinning it to make it slightly different is a much better use of your time than creating something entirely new from scratch. So it's a great habit to get into. And Deborah has one last piece of great advice before we move on to Jeremy Crawford, and that is to lean into your strengths. Lean into the things you enjoy doing. If you're not very good at voices or don't like running long combat, then don't do those things. You know, as much as the stuff you do enjoy doing. Sure, if you have something you want to get better at, work on it. But if there's something you just don't enjoy, lean away from it. For example, Deborah can't do voices very well. Her words, not mine. But she says she is silly, so she leans into doing silly voices. I personally can't do accents at all, so all my voices are my accent, just at different pitches and different speeds. I like short tactical combat, so that's what I do. Deborah likes creating puzzles, so she does lots of them. So figure out what it is you like DMing, and at the very least, lean into that when you start out. You can branch out into other things later down the line once you're more comfortable and have a better understanding of the game and you know what your players like. Aabriya Iyengar has a super quick and useful tip, and that's simply that your players are more important than the rules. The rule of cool is where if the game rules is written don't really allow for something awesome to happen in the game, then ignore them and let it happen anyway. As you DM for longer and learn the rules more and learn what they're there for and how they can often help tell a good story, You may want to use the rule of cool less and less, but as a first time DM, lean into it. It can be a great way to let you and your players get some instant satisfaction in what can sometimes be quite a slow game. It will also allow you to speed up situations where you may need to check the rules or really think about how something should happen, when in reality you can just rule of cool it and just let the thing happen. When first time DMing, using the rule of cool can be so much fun, because it makes you realise that this game is very different from things like video games or other board games. You and the players are what makes this game work, not the rules. And that's a really powerful thing. Okay, so please ignore my shirt change. I'm filming this over multiple days because the video's so damn long, but I quite like making videos like this. If you kind of like this style, please consider joining my Patreon. It really helps and will help me do a lot more in the future. But enough about me. Let's talk about Jeremy Crawford, whose tip is to read the room. I've said it before and even said something similar in my Deborah and Woll point, but you want your players interacting with each other and having fun. But sometimes it's just one or two players eating up all the spotlight, or one player in particular getting sidetracked, and if you as the DM see the minority of players getting all the attention and see that other players are looking bored or rolling their eyes, or that they've just not said anything for a while, then you as the DM can have the equivalent of the Kool-Aid guy bursting through the wall moment, grabbing everyone's attention and focus and pulling those players who may be getting a little bored back in. But Jeremy does also say something similar to Deborah and Woll. Again, talk to your players beforehand. Let them know that they have a lot more power in the structure of the game than they think. And let them know it's their responsibility to share the spotlight or move the spotlight onto people who've not been in it for a while. Or just let them know to be aware that they can kind of edit the game. Jeremy suggests asking your players to try to always go for the coolest, highest protein, his words not mine, version of what your character wants to do. Go big rather than spending 15 minutes doing an individual character's shopping montage. To some degree, it's the player's responsibility to keep things moving, but you as the DM probably have to remind them of that often. Jeremy also has another great tip, and this is something I never thought about before, and it's so good. If you are a new DM at the start of your first session, make sure to go around the table, getting each player to describe their character. And it's not just that this is a fun way to get everyone on the same wavelengths, like visually. Obviously everyone needs to know what everyone's characters look like, but this also allows you, the DM, to learn a lot about how your players want to play the game. And especially if you don't know the players very well, you can get a read on them as a person. For example, if a player spends a long time describing themselves in great detail and talks about their backstory and it's all very main character energy, you probably know that they're looking to be in the spotlight a lot. And maybe they need some help when it comes to integrating more into the team. If a player is very quiet and shy during the description of their character, you know you may need to give that person a little more of the spotlight, since they may be hesitant to seek it out themselves. If you have a player who is just not interested in describing their character at all, then you know maybe they're not really into roleplay and maybe just want to do combat. It's all incredibly useful information that you as the DM can glean right at the start of your first session just by asking the players to describe their characters. It will also allow you to see any red flags, anything that may be borderline offensive to other players around the table, so you can shut that stuff down early. And before we move on to Chris Perkins' tips, Jeremy has one last big tip, and it's something I've talked about before in other videos too, but it's so good. It's listen more than you talk as the DM. New DMs often see Matt Mercer or Brennan Mulligan and think, okay, I have to talk a lot. Like constantly moving things forwards and dropping hints for the players and go, go, go. But by talking less and listening more, you actually get to pay more attention to the threads of the story that your players are trying to tell, so you can weave it all into something greater. By listening more, you can read the room better and see who is having fun, who maybe is having less fun, and who's maybe not getting as much spotlight as everyone else. Then you can kind of direct the scenes like a movie. For me, this is kind of less like listen rather than talking, and more just be in a constant dialogue with your players. You can be talking and listening at the same time by just asking players lots of questions, and then it's just about paying attention to the table and what is happening, how they are reacting. For me, when I first started DMing, I was so tied up in my descriptions and telling a good story and making sure I did everything correctly on my side that I kind of forgot to check in with the players. And then by the end of it, it left me wondering, wait, were my players even having fun? Like, I had no idea. Chris Perkins has some great tips for beginner DMs. times. The first of which is don't be afraid to just tell your players that you are not prepared for a certain outcome. Being able to improvise will come with time, and in the beginning, if you've not prepared for an outcome, if your players decide to do something wild that you would never have predicted and you're just not comfortable making it all up on the spot yet, if they want to fight something and you don't have the stat blocks and didn't plan out any combat, just tell your players that you did not prepare for this. They will understand and may retcon what they decided to do. Or you can take a 20-minute break so your players can grab snacks and use the bathroom, and you can quickly throw something together and prep a little. Or if it's close to the end of the session, just end early, then pick it up next session after you've had some time to prep. Your players will understand that not only are you new to the DM seat, but you're also only human, so don't stress about it. Chris Perkins also has a great method for if you have all new players too, who maybe don't necessarily know how to play the game. And that's just to explain how the D20 is used. Then just start playing. There's a lot to D&D, and for new players, you may want to talk them all the way through their character sheet, tell them how combat works, explain to them the 3 pillars, teach them all the rules, but that will overwhelm them. The best thing you can do for new players is to get them learning by playing, and when things come up in the game, then you explain it. It may be a player doesn't need to learn the rules for grappling until 5 sessions in, so you can teach it to them then. You can teach players different aspects of the games and their character when they become relevant. So you're kind of drip feeding them the information of how the game works while they play. Chris gives the example of players not needing to know anything about hit points until something hits them or they take damage. You do not have to burden the player with that information up front. What you want to burden a player with up front is just getting their imagination going right away. But it is good to explain how the D20 is used, just because it's so important in so many aspects of the game, and players will want to pick it up and roll. And Chris's best tip for new DMs: embrace the unexpected. Improv will get a lot easier as time goes on, as I've said, but what will help is being excited when your players do something you are not expecting. And feel free to take time if you need to think about stuff. You are being patient with your players, they'll be patient with you, but just being excited and enthusiastic when things go differently than you were planning will put you in a much better mind frame to yes and your way to some really cool moments and places with your games. And it's important to remember, because if you spend a lot of time planning and thinking about how a game is going to go, and it doesn't go that way, and now you have to do even more work in the moment, the natural inclination is to be frustrated by that. And that's normal. Things don't go to plan, humans get frustrated. But if you just shift your mindset a little, and if things don't go to plan, try and be excited about that, because now you get to see where the game goes, something that you have no idea about. You get to see the story unfold in front of you, and you get to practice those improv skills. Okay, now we're on to the second part of the video, where we're going to look a little less at how other DMs run their games, and more at figuring out the best way for you to run your games. One of the biggest criticisms I get in my videos is that DMs should not set these other DMs up as goals. You should not try to be Matt Mercer or Brennan Mulligan, because DMing is a personal thing, and everyone's different, with different preferences and strengths. Now, I believe if you enjoy the way someone else DMs and the kind of games they run, then yes, watch videos about them, learn from them, and take aspects of the way they DM and add them to your own personal DMing arsenal. You'll find over time the things you have borrowed from others will twist and turn as you use them and become something very much your own, and you will develop your own style. So it's good to be inspired by other DMs, but don't try to be identical to them. If you wanted to develop your own way of DMing, then the best thing to do is to look at these things. The first thing is narration and tone. How do you want to describe your world? Some DMs prefer a laid-back, casual chat, a back and forth with the players. Others prefer narrating every scene in great detail. Most will be somewhere in between, so it's up to you on what you feel most comfortable with. The next thing is rules adjudicating. Once again, this is on a scale between strict or chill. Are you fine with the rules being a bit loosey-goosey, or do you want the rules as written to be gospel? There's no wrong or right way, just as long as you let your players know beforehand what kind of game you'll be running. Next, let's talk about spotlight. Are you going to be taking the reins more and expecting more of the attention to be on you, putting on a show for your players? Or will you be more hands-off, letting your players have the spotlight and you just step in when needed? Obviously, once again, it's a scale, and the extremes on both sides are bad, but in reality, some DMs do just talk more than others and still run great games. So it's kind of how much of a show you want to be putting on. Sandbox or railroad, very important. I would suggest being railroady when you first start DMing, which is where you kind of push the players from one place to the next, and there's not much space for random things to happen. But if you're more comfortable, maybe you would prefer more of a sandbox game, where the players have a lot more freedom to do anything and go anywhere. And the big decision I think DMs have to make, and I don't hear many people talking about this, is do you want these D&D games to be closer to an art form or a hangout? Obviously, once again, it's a scale, and the extremes on either side are dangerous, but some DMs just want to play D&D mostly to hang out with their friends once a week, and that's fine. But that DMing style is very different than someone like me, because I see D&D as a collaborative storytelling exercise where I want to create something with my friends. So I may be a bit stricter about people showing up on time or progressing through the game. You know, other DMs just want to hang out and don't mind if the table gets sidetracked, chatting about some TV show they just watched recently, or they don't mind if people are on their phone a lot, but I do. And there's no right way to DM D&D. So you need to figure out how you want to do it, and then from there, you still may need to change things up a little bit and be flexible depending on how your players want to play D&D. But figuring out what kind of DM you want to be and where you're going to start, and then communicating that with your players is very, very important for new DMs. And speaking of there being no right way to run D&D, there is a wrong way, and that is if anyone at the table is having a bad time. As long as no one at the table is legitimately unhappy, then you're doing well. And you know players can get bored, and that's fine. Different players enjoy different parts of the game, and you're not going to get a full table of people who all love long combat. Someone's going to get bored in combat. Someone's going to get bored in social scenes. Someone's going to get bored in these big story moments. They're just not interested in it. Not everyone's going to be having a good time all the time at the table. But as a DM, it is your job to try and balance it all out. So everyone at the end of the session can say, yeah, I had a good time overall. And if you can do that, I think you are an exceptional DM. And finally, in this part of the video, once you know how you want to DM your game and you have it all set up, I would suggest doing a few things. The first is start with a one-shot and still do a session 0. If you truly want to keep it to a one-shot to get a taste of DMing, then a session 0 is less important. But if you think you may want to then spin the one-shot off into a bigger campaign, then you're going to wish you had done a session 0 at one point. A session 0 just being a session before your first official session where you can get to know what your players want out of the campaign and communicate with each other about backstories, connections, and the stories you all want to tell. So that in session 1, everything runs way smoother and everyone gets everything they want out of it faster. The beauty of starting with a one-shot where you tell a complete story in one session is not only do you get to DM a complete thing, but by their very nature, one-shots need to be simple and easy to understand, which is what you want for your first time being a dungeon master. Also, as a first-time DM, and any DM really, it is important to ask for feedback often. You'll find that when you are DMing, things will go fast. There's so much happening, and you're hopefully having so much fun that it can be hard to keep track of the small things. So I'd suggest at the end of each session, ask the players what they liked, what they didn't like, and how you can improve. This way you can navigate all the insecurities that can come with DMing by concentrating on improving exactly what your players didn't enjoy and put more stuff into the next session that they did enjoy. And that brings me nicely to the next point, and there's no way to sugarcoat this. DMing can lead to a lot of insecurity. We've all had that thought where we see players getting bored, or we wonder if our friends are only showing up every week because they're just being good friends. This is something that happens when you put yourself in such an exposed position like the DM seat. You're putting yourself out there, trying something new, and that can come with a lot of feelings of imposter syndrome and self-doubt. Getting feedback from your players and having a constant open dialogue with them can really help this. And just DMing enough times can also help this, but the best thing I found to get over these negative thoughts is to just keep inviting people to games. And if they keep coming, then you must be doing something right. And if they are, in fact, just showing up week after week and playing hours of D&D with you just because they're good friends, then they're either very, very good friends or they don't even realize it yet, but they like playing D&D. And another tip for first-time DMs, especially playing with first-time players, let people retcon and change their characters. My first time DMing was with first-time players, and the characters they created were fun, but after a few sessions, we all realized they may not have chosen the best feats and spells for their characters, or for the story we were telling. For example, people choosing a lot of open water abilities when the setting has very little water. Now, this stuff can all be sorted in a session 0, but it also helps to be open to a character rebuild at level 3. It's what I did. I let my players change everything and anything about their character's build. The characters stayed the same, but what they could do could change. Wildly, in some cases, because the players didn't even know how they enjoyed to play D&D beforehand. And now, after leveling up a few times, they have a much better idea of the game and how they would like to play it. So at some point, let your players retcon everyone who they're playing. Trust me, there'll be something they regret taking when they made the character, and they would love to be able to change it. And at the end of it, the party will be much more well-rounded and the characters much more in tune with what they can do, that the whole game will be better for it. Next, let's talk about safety tools in games. There can be a vulnerability in playing D&D. Some players really open up their minds and their feelings to allow the game to truly affect them. A lot of players do this without even realizing, and someone at the table may be dealing with issues in life that the other players aren't aware of. And in a game where you can be talking about mature subject matter, violence and death, and no one knows where the story is really going to go, I think it is important to have some safety tools in place to, as a last case scenario, avoid something happening that can really affect someone negatively. Session 0 is a safety tool and is worth doing. Just having an open dialogue at the table and letting your players know that if they really don't like something, we can stop going in that direction or retcon something real quick. That's a safety tool. But you can also use something known as lines and veils, which is before the campaign even starts, where the players and the DM lets the whole table know if they have lines they do not want crossing. They don't want to see something in the game. And you can also choose some veils, things that you understand may come up, but you want spoken about in very little detail, or you want it to happen off screen. Then you can also use what's known as X cards, simply cards you have on the table with an X on them that you can hold up if a line has been crossed. This signifies to everyone to move away from the topic at hand, or retcon something that just happened. And X cards do not have to be just a physical card. I've seen people use lines and veils together with the X card to have red and yellow cards for veils, red cards for lines. And I've also seen DMs just let the players know they have verbal X cards, not always obvious to the players, especially more polite and quiet ones, but they can just say out loud when they really do not like what is happening at the table right now, and they will be respected in a moment if they do. Now, if you are a DM who wants to constantly be learning and figuring out how to have more fun for themselves and for their players, then I recommend checking out a few other D&D resources that will help you learn about D&D and the many different ways it can be played. Obviously, we have actual plays on YouTube. Dimension 20 and Critical Role are the biggest ones. There's literally hours upon hours of content out there where you can submerge yourself in D&D being played. But if you were hesitant about jumping in to campaigns with a ton of episodes, I recommend checking out Critical Role's Calamity short series. It's 4 episodes long. Brennan Mulligan DMs in a setting created by a mix of Brennan and Matthew Mercer, where you can submerge yourself in D&D, and it's high-level play, and I feel like every time I rewatch it, I get really great insights into DMing, and a lot of inspiration too. You can also check out some D&D podcasts, which are audio only, and there are a ton out there, but I recommend Not Another D&D Podcast, Dungeons and Daddies, and The Adventure Zone. Also, you can learn a lot from games, the biggest one, of course, being Baldur's Gate 3. Obviously, in that game, the rules are slightly different, but I do think it's the closest thing we have to playing D&D while not actually playing D&D. At the very least, it steeps you in the Forgotten Realms, the most popular setting for D&D 5e, because I learned so much lore from that game. But you know what? Any game which is narratively quest driven, or that has leveling up, or is even just an open world, would be great for figuring out what makes you smile, or seeing things that you think are cool that you could translate into your D&D game. Books wise, I do think the core rulebooks and the extended rulebook for D&D are great. That's controversial because they are expensive and not necessary at all to be a great DM, but for me, the Monster Manual, the Player's Handbook, and the Dungeon Master's Guide are full of helpful tidbits of information and inspiration for your games. And Tasha's Cauldron of Everything and Xanathar's Guide to Everything do expand on all of that. But it is important to note, later this year, they will start releasing new versions of these books. So it is probably best to wait for those to be released. But if you don't want to wait a few months, or you are just fine with older copies, places should be putting those older versions on sale relatively soon. I know I've seen them cheaper on Amazon recently, so something to keep in mind. Outside of Wizards of the Coast, I really like these Game Master handbooks. I have 3 of them, and honestly, I've got so much use out of them. Non-player Characters is my go-to book whenever I want inspiration to make a new NPC. Same thing with Random Encounters, but this is mostly good for locations and inspiration on story plot hooks. And then Traps, Puzzles, and Dungeons, which I really like because I love throwing little puzzles and riddles at my players, and this is chock full of great ones. And since I'm a Critical Role fan, Tal'Dorei Reborn and Guide to Wildemount are fantastic for learning about the Critical Role world of Exandria as well as giving a different style and vibe from normal Wizards of the Coast books. As for adventure modules, to start with, I personally recommend something like the Radiant Citadel, which is a bunch of short adventures that you can tie together if you want. Phandelver and Below and Call of the Netherdeep are also two of my favourite adventures to run. I mean, let's face it, I spend over a year running each one, so I've not run many adventures, but Call of the Netherdeep has a really cool giant quest that takes the players just all over its world. And Phandelver and Below, the first half of it is this adventure for like actual beginners. It's this classic kind of like fight some goblins, find a castle kind of adventure, but it's all situated around one place. So the players can really get like a feel for it and role play around the area and live in that area. The second half of the adventure turns into an epic mind flayer battle invasion story, so you get a bit of both worlds in that. But honestly, all these adventures, when I played them, ended up changing wildly and what my players' characters wanted to do, and my players. I like often merge adventures and homebrew a ton of stuff. So don't feel like you need to run an adventure religiously to the letter, but I must say, I find them helpful for loose structure. I like to start where the book starts, hit similar plot points through the book, use the same major NPCs, twists and turns, then I usually end in the same place the book ends. Everything else in the book is very fluid for me, and I often dip into other books in the middle and dip out. And finally, a great resource for new DMs are TTRPG YouTubers. And I apologise if I miss anyone off this list, but I like to watch big creators like DnD Shorts, Pointy Hat, Ginny D, Bob Worldbuilder, and Dungeon Craft, and some newer creators who are growing fast like Corkboards and Curiosities, the ADHD DM, Power Word Spill, and Deficient Master. There are so many D&D and TTRPG creators out there who all play in their own way and have individual styles, so check out everyone, see who you like. There will be someone there for you. And to finish off and go off script here, I just want to say that since I started creating videos on YouTube, I've found the culture to be very divisive. And if you are coming into the community trying to DM, it's important, I think, or like I just want to warn you, so you maybe want to prepare yourself. It can be quite political, and it's hard to tell what people's true intentions are with their beliefs. For example, I see a lot of hate for Wizards of the Coast. Most of it I personally agree with, that they are trying to make as much money as possible, it feels like. But then I see other people being like, yeah, and they're so woke and they're putting diversity in their books, and I'm like, whoa, 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 that hate's coming from a different place. I think hate is an incredibly strong word anyway. And this divisiveness goes from like the extreme like political and personal views of the way the world works to like things that I would consider a little bit more mundane, which is like, this is how you should DM. You should do a sandbox, the players should have agency, never fudge your roles, never do this, never do that. And things get even more muddled when the official D&D books from Wizards of the Coast say, hey, you can do it like this, but then other people are like, no, that's not the real way you play D&D. Don't trust the official sources, they're incorrect, they're wrong, they're evil. And for me personally, if you are a new DM and you want to take anything from this video, I think it just should be have fun, right? It's a game. And I think the two most important aspects of it are find a balance between you and all your players and figure out how everyone wants to play and meet in the middle and create something beautiful, and just have an open and honest dialogue with your players. If your players are fine with you fudging roles and you find it easier to fudge roles and you create a better story and you create a better time all around by doing that, then I think you're okay to do it. But if you're fudging roles and you have a player who's really into the game and would be heartbroken at the idea, then don't do it. And oh, looks like my camera just turned off, so this seems like a good time to end this video. Oh wow, I think it overheated. I think it's not made for summer. Oh, okay, my camera could be broken, so I'm gonna do another plug for my Patreon because I might need some extra money for a new camera. Thank you for watching. Sorry for the black screen.